I never imagined that a family dinner, something I had always cherished, would turn into the night that changed how my son-in-law looked at me forever. It was a Sunday evening, the kind where the house smells of warm spices and slow-cooked food, and conversation usually flows gently between bites. My daughter, Aisha, had invited everyone over, her husband, Cameron, their friends, and a few relatives. I arrived early, as I always did, carrying a homemade dessert and the quiet hope that we would all enjoy a peaceful evening together. Cameron had always been confident, too confident perhaps. He was successful, well-dressed, and spoke as if every word deserved applause. Since marrying my daughter, he had developed a habit of subtly reminding everyone, especially me, that he was now the man of the house. I usually ignored it for Aisha's sake. A mother learns when to speak and when to stay silent. That night, however, silence became impossible. We sat around the dining table, laughter echoing as plates were passed around. At first, everything felt normal. Cameron told stories about his business, exaggerating his achievements as usual. People nodded politely. I smiled and listened. Then his tone shifted. "So," Cameron said loudly, leaning back in his chair, "I was telling my colleagues how different generations see money. Some people still believe hard work alone is enough." He chuckled and looked directly at me. A few people laughed nervously. "In reality," he continued, cutting into his food, "times have changed. If you don't adapt, you fall behind, right?" He paused, eyes still on me. "Isn't that true, Uncle?" The word uncle felt sharp, not affectionate. I nodded calmly. "Times do change," I replied, "but values shouldn't." Cameron smirked. "Values don't pay bills," he said. "Experience is good, but without success, it's just stories." The table went quiet. Aisha shifted uncomfortably. "Cameron." "It's fine," he interrupted her. "I'm just being honest. I mean, look at our elders. They work their whole lives yet still depend on others. That's not the future I want." That was the moment I felt the sting, not just for myself, but for every sacrifice silently dismissed. I had worked for over 30 years. I had raised my children with honesty, fed them when money was scarce, educated them when resources were limited, and taught them dignity when the world offered none. And now, at my own daughter's table, I was being reduced to an example of failure. Still, I remained quiet. Cameron mistook my silence for weakness. "You know," he added, laughing lightly, "if I hadn't stepped in, Aisha's life would have been very average." That's when I put my spoon down. I looked at him steadily, my voice calm but firm. "Cameron," I said, "may I ask you something?" He shrugged. "Of course." "You talk a lot about success," I continued. "Tell me, when you were struggling during your first year of business, who paid your rent?" He blinked. "Well, my father helped a bit." "And when your loan application was rejected," I asked, "who spoke to his old friend at the bank?" His smile faded. "And when Aisha was sick before your wedding," I went on, "who sold his gold ring to help pay the hospital bills without telling anyone?" The room was silent now. I leaned forward slightly. "That was me." Cameron opened his mouth, then closed it. "I never spoke about it," I said quietly. "Not because it was small, but because real support doesn't need an audience." People at the table avoided Cameron's eyes. "You see," I continued, "success isn't measured by how loudly you speak or how much you earn. It's measured by how many people you lift without reminding them you did." Cameron shifted in his chair. "And one more thing," I added, meeting his gaze. "Aisha was never saved by you. She was raised strong enough to walk beside you, not behind you." Aisha's eyes filled with tears. "I may not be rich," I concluded, "but everything you proudly call your foundation was built with lessons from people you just mocked." No one spoke for several seconds. Cameron cleared his throat. I didn't mean." "It's all right," I said gently, standing up. "But remember this, Respect is not optional at any table, especially one where you are a guest. That night ended early. Conversations were short, goodbyes awkward. Later, as I was leaving, Cameron stopped me at the door. "I owe you an apology," he said quietly. "I let pride speak for me." I nodded. Pride listens only when humility arrives. Since that evening, things changed. Cameron became quieter, more thoughtful. He never mocked again. And though he never spoke of that night publicly, I saw something new in his eyes, respect, earned the hard way. Sometimes the fiercest comeback isn't loud. It's truthful.